and welcome to Studio
Set
Stage, a weekly podcast with us, Cynthia Mallard
and Mark Dean, where we take you from the studio to the set to the stage
in the world of entertainment. Welcome back to Studio Set Stage. I'm Cynthia Mallard.
And I'm Mark Dean.
Hey guys, we are back in the spot. You know what? Another week of Studio Set Stage, taking you from the studio
to the set
and to the stage.
Yes.
So today we're going to do a little different, so we're going to focus on some music today, so for all my aspiring artists, those people who are aspiring to do it, of course, or those who are already in the business. We got some information, right?
Yes. It's been a very informative week, as we would say, with the passage of the Music Modernization Act, as they say, MMA. It was just signed into law by our President Trump, and it is now in the books. It's official, and it's kind of a celebration. It's a meeting of the minds between now the current platform, the digital service providers, and the artists, the writers, the producers that actually create the content. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for the people who don't know what the Music Modernization Act is, has this been something that's been like an ongoing thing? I think we talked about it like last week or whatever, just
yes,
a little bit or whatever. But actually, what is it for those of us who are haven't heard about it, not really privy to it?
Right. Well, to give just a little backdrop on that, it actually started with, now we have the current platform where it's digital, and now you have the DSPs, which it stands for digital service providers, say Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal. That's really that definition of digital service providers. They now currently, in terms of distribution of music, how music is distributed, and with that has always been regulation in terms of royalties, setting the royalties and how it's distributed and how it's being paid in terms of royalties to people, in terms of the indie artists, in terms of writers, producers, how that is distributed. And basically, in a nutshell, with this platform that has right now is our current platform, the way music is being distributed over the past, say, 15, 20 years, it first started with Napster. When Napster rose, it really disrupted the entire industry, the way music was basically distributed. You don't have record stores anymore. You don't have CDs, but it's being as an MP3, and now you have these platforms where this music is basically disseminated. There was no regulations on how royalties was being distributed.
That's what I was
They were using the old platform, and those laws that were regulating, they had been on the books dating back to 1909.
Wow.
Where the original Copyright Act was enacted, but those were on platforms that have since been long gone. Then the other major update to that Copyright Act in 1909 was in 1976. Which basically was the standard platform which royalty rates was based on, how artists was getting paid. And when you deal with that, there were 4 basic royalties that artists would deal with, dealing with the PROs, public rights organizations such as ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. They regulated it. And these 4 basic royalties were your mechanical royalties. There were performance royalties. Then synchronization rights. Then also you have another one, which is sheet music, lyric music, where composers, authors, like you say, with marching bands, they need sheet music to pull out and they say, well, these are sheet music in terms we can play this,
right,
or accompanist can play and what so have you. So based on that, these were more physical aspects of how, based on sales, how they could document, how they could track those things, was being, okay, well, based on per unit, we can set this royalty rate based on sales, and it can be documented. However, with the digital platform, it was kind of the wild, wild west for a while.
Right, right.
And in the loophole based on the laws that they had, based on the laws that they had dating back to 1909, there were loopholes not actually holding the DSP, the digital service providers, stating, well, you have to adhere to this basically royalty rate. No, we actually have the intellectual rights to this platform.
So the digital service providers, you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the digital. So for those people who are kind of like maybe confused a little bit, music is not my specialty. So when you say DSPs, digital service providers, so are you talking about like iTunes, Spotify? Like what are we talking about? When
like I said before,
digital.
You look at Spotify.
Okay.
If you look at the current platform now, where CDs are not your major physical product, is not being sold. How music is being disseminated, like if you have an iPhone,
the streaming,
you have access to Apple Music
online
now,
right.
and you actually can listen to it. Spotify, Pandora, Deezer. These are just examples.
And so these DSPs is what you're saying. They were not paying. I'm trying to get my understanding. They were not paying artists, right? What was deserved of them. Is that what you're saying under the old laws? Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, basically, there was no law.
Okay.
They were going off of the old laws, but that was totally regulating to a platform that has passed. You see what I'm saying? These laws were outdated.
Right.
So
Gotcha. Okay.
really the loophole in that was digital service providers. They didn't have to adhere to that because it was a different platform.
So they were getting over on the artists, basically.
So they were paying, where with a download, for example.
Okay.
A download, if you download it, or you say you had your music on Apple and they downloaded it, iTunes rather.
Okay.
They downloaded off iTunes. Your music was set at, say, 99 cents or $1. Then with the download, you subtract the certain fees that Apple would take out for having it on its platform. You probably walk away with around 71, 72 cents per download.
Okay.
Versus where with Spotify, and it changes like you change your shirt. Especially in this platform. Everything is so instantaneous.
Right.
But with Spotify, a stream, you would get paid maybe a fourth of a penny. Big difference in that.
Okay.
But that wasn't regulated. It would be that royalty rate wouldn't be regulated by law. It was regulated based on, they're using our platform. This is a subscription service. So they wouldn't base that royalty rate on the sales of, the volume of subscribers that's listening to it. They would just set the rate.
Okay.
Basically, this one record has 1 billion streams, but at a fourth of a penny.
Wow.
Versus if that same thing, if you download it or you had it available versus iTunes for $1 and it got 1 billion downloads. Huge difference. And but at the same time, you're getting the disparity of the revenue that was being created, where Spotify now has blown up in terms of their market cap and the revenue that they bring in off the subscriptions. It wasn't being reflected in what they're paying out as far as royalties to artists.
I gotcha. Wow.
So I say all that to say, with the Music Modernization Act, it basically it's going to take maybe they're going to have a committee that evaluates these digital service providers and create a rate based on that criteria where you're being, in terms of the streams, you get a certain amount of streams, there should be a royalty rate set in place.
So what do you think, like, just being in the industry, like, so what should the royalty rate be? I mean, do you have an idea of what you would, what would artists want to get paid, or what's the more favorable ratio?
Well, like I said before, when you look at the downloads, it was pretty much, really out there where versus you made your product, or say you have a song, a single, or an EP, and you made it available for download for purchase, where say you sell that single again for $1, and with that, outside of the administrative fees or the fees that it takes to actually keep that platform up, they extract maybe 20 cents, 25 cents out of that, and then you receive the rest from each sale. I think.
What do you think is fair, though? I mean,
I think that would be fair, but then also having a system in place where you can scale it based off the streams that this particular song hit. Because now I will say it's a different format, because you got to think about the revenue stream, where it's transactional, where you pay one time, you have the download. But see, with the streaming services, you have to subscribe, and there's a monthly subscription. You pay, say, I'm just saying, $9 a month, $10 a month to have access to that. You really don't own that download versus that. You own access to having that download, like it be in the cloud. And then sometimes they have it even in tier services where you subscribe to a streaming service, you get the basic, you still have the advertisers, you still have to listen to that, but they have it in tiers. If you got, say, the premium tier, that would eliminate, ads and all of that, and you have access, you can listen. You can actually, once you download a stream, you have it available that you can listen to it offline with actually having to log into the app, so forth. However, with that, you can listen to it as much as you want.
Right.
And based on that, even how charts are being predicted, even how sales are being predicted with so many streams equal one download. And based on that, that whole thing, it really didn't make sense, because there wasn't a standard royalty rate set. Like for each platform, like I said, I'm just saying hypothetically, Spotify could charge, say, well, for each stream on this, we're going to give you 1/4 of a penny on that. YouTube Music, for example, they say, well, we're not paying 1/4 of a penny. We might pay you maybe 0.75 of a penny. Again, and then you see, like I said, the disparity between a download where you could literally, you download it on iTunes. That's downloaded. It's one transaction, but you make that $1. But think about, you sell 100,000 copies of that, and you literally made $100,000 or close to $100,000 versus you getting paid 1/4 of a penny, and it's no structure.
Right.
It's no structure.
Well, listen,
so with the MMA, it basically will add structure, and it'll take about 2 years.
So if you're just joining us, this is Studio Set Stage. We are live in the mix. I'm Cynthia Mallard, along with Mark Dean. We're talking the Music Modernization Act and kind of how it's going to affect you artists out there. Everyone has a friend who is like trying to make it in the business. And then some of us, we have friends who are actually in the business who are having to deal with this each and every day. So the update of the Music Modernization Act is a good thing, basically.
Yes, it's a good thing. It was signed into law as of this week. President Trump, I'm not a fan of President Trump, but
I don't think anybody is right now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. With all the shenanigans and all of that stuff. But I will say this is good news for the indie artist. And as he said, Rome wasn't built in a day. But this new platform, again, with the digital age, the digital platform, I think it's really good, and it will add some regulatory effects that will be to the artist's advantage.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? I know that you were laughing so hard about it. I'm sure everybody else was. But the American Music Awards went down this week. I want to say shout out to Tracy Ellis Ross, who did like an amazing and a fabulous job. What did you think about the AMAs?
Well, the AMAs, I thought they were good.
I thought they were great.
I thought they were really good.
Compared to the years before.
Compared to, previous AMAs.
Yeah.
I think it was more inclusive and it really reflected the current trend and the current status right now of the industry. I think in a way it was good. We spoke about it of the last podcast. They talked about they entered into a multi-deal situation with YouTube Music, which is a competitor. They're now kind of transcending from really with just content. Now they're focusing more on music. They putting their names in that dwelling over there.
I think it was genius for the AMAs to partner with YouTube, and for YouTube, vice versa. I mean, you know what? I really appreciate it. Like I said, of course, it gave the show much more energy. You know what I'm saying? But it made sense. It makes so much sense, because think about how much music is consumed on YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the
Definitely.
AMAs, they needed a jolt of energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think also it reminded, and I think really with that partnership and the current status, like you said, it goes back to the way music is being distributed. It's very interactive.
Yes, loved it.
It's extremely interactive, and that's where the music industry is heading. It's there, and when you have major. When you see all of the major streams heading that way, it was just, I think it was a no-brainer. And actually with the interaction, how they was able to link up with YouTube and say, well, we want to give the person that loves the content, the end user, the ability to participate in the awards, in the selection process with winners, nominees, and all of that. And I think that definitely was a boost. Like you said, it was a boost in the arm. And I just thought the layout was really good. Speaking of the Aretha Franklin tribute, I thought that was great as well.
We're going to get to that in just a minute.
Yes.
But you know what? I definitely want to talk about what did you think about like the format, like the visual? The visual was like amazing. So it seems like everybody who was performing, they were like in some type of video set, which was very reminiscent of like the 80s and the 90s. You know what I'm saying? That's what I took from it anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Um,
They actually put you in a setting of like how the music was taking place. Now, I appreciated that.
Yeah, it's entertainment, and I think it definitely provided that platform for artists to be artists, to entertain. I mean, I remember watching AMAs as a kid and seeing some of the greatest performances in history. You know, seeing Michael Jackson and seeing greats like Stevie Wonder and even, like I said, Aretha Franklin. You know, actually coming on and performing and doing what they do,
right,
and actually bringing their creativity, their songs to life. And I think that's what was apparent with this AMA Awards. I liked Cardi B's performance. I thought that was great.
Which she walked away with like a few AMAs.
Yeah. She received, I think, 8 nominations, the most. Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
You know, she definitely, I think she's the most now awarded female artist in terms of the AMAs.
Michael Jackson holds the record.
Yeah, Michael Jackson holds the total record. Yes.
24.
Yes.
And I think Taylor Swift is
the
at
female, the highest.
at 23.
Yeah.
But I think she's actually tied. I can't think about who she's tied with, but I think she's tied with someone else for 23. I think a country music artist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But like I said, great. Like I said, hats off to the AMA. What a wonderful job. So, we were talking earlier, kind of off air, about like this week's, like normally we do like the tips and inspiration and just kind of motivation or whatever. And I just want to, kind of harp on what you talked about as far as your post today from the desk of Mark Dean, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I basically talked about following through. From the last week, I talked about basically the SWOT analysis, evaluating your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and knowing how to analyze that and how that plays a role in, carving out, basically you achieving, your goals in terms of understanding it from a business aspect. And this week, I wanted to follow up on that with the follow through. A lot of times we fall short of achieving our goals because we just don't follow through. We don't stay the course. And I, say that all the time. But in that following through means, keeping your word, never make promises you can't keep. And when you say you're going to do something, do it,
right,
and intend to follow it through from beginning to the end. And most successful entrepreneurs in business, and you got to understand, music business, entertainment business, film business, they all have that one commonality is a business.
Right.
And in business, following through is extremely important to building relationships, networking, and partnering. So I just wanted to make that important and bring that to the surface, is that in business, we have to understand the language. And in understanding the language, part of that is following through and saying what you're going to do, you do it. And in that, I think if you understand the importance of that, you can definitely reach your goals, because there are no rules, but there is a process. And in that, that speaks volumes. Actions speak louder than words. And when you follow through with your actions, when you have a goal, you say, well, look, I want to meet this. And there's steps to it.
Yeah.
You follow through on those steps.
Right.
And you will achieve your goals. But you
In
got to follow through.
In other words, like, I just remember having interns, or you go somewhere and you speak,
Yes.
And of course, I think we've all experienced this, where you go places and, people run up to you and say, oh, Mark Dean, I would love to work with you in this, and this, or I would like to work with you, Cynthia, in this, and this, and this, and whatever. And you give them, you've all been in this situation. Somebody gives you a card, and, you all leave that conference or whatever it is, workshop, panel, whatever it is, And everybody has that same card. Everybody has that same phone number
Yes.
of that person who has spoken, or you were floored by what they had to say. You
Right.
heard them say, "We are hiring. We're looking for some interns," and you don't call the people. You don't call them. The next day you don't call them. That next week you don't call them.
Yes.
A month goes by and you don't hear from anyone. And sometimes it's that one person. You may have spoken to like 100 people.
Yes.
And normally it's like you may get one or two people. Now everybody at the conference or whatever, they promised that they were going to call you and
Right.
contact you,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Right? Think about it. You know, we've been in that situation
Yeah.
when you're new and you didn't follow up. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So the person who follows up or the person who calls, just
Right.
in this specific situation, that's the person who's going to succeed.
Exactly. And like you said, again, it goes back to following through on that. A lot of opportunities, and this industry is unorthodox, is not for the faint, and know how opportunities come. They might come just like that. And if you're not, aware of that, and you're not able to recognize when that opportunity comes, and you don't do diligence and follow through on it, that might be the opportunity you needed. That might be the opportunity, and all it takes is one. All it takes is one.
Right.
Perfect example of an artist that had a song out years ago. Now they only had one hit, but the opportunities for them to take advantage, they did diligence. They made sure that they understood what they needed to do to put it in place. They put that one song out, and they're still reaping the benefits of making sure that they had all their primary things, fundamentals in place. Due to that, now their children is reaping benefits from that.
Right.
So I'm just saying that's an important thing, and nothing is given. It can be very coveted.
Yeah.
And you just have to make sure that you have everything, your I's dotted and your T's crossed. So when that opportunity comes, you're prepared.
Right.
And like they say, success, that equals to you were prepared when the opportunity arose.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I always say, and you probably hate when I say this, but I always I don't even think about it being coveted. That's kind of one of the things that I don't even really think about. Like, you never hear that come out of my mouth because I don't look at it like that. I am of the belief that when things are for you, you don't have to worry about, don't think about what somebody else is thinking about. Something that was meant for you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I definitely feel you on that.
Yeah, because
I mean,
I'm not the people. Because my thing is the people. I feel like the people who are saying, "Oh, this is such a coveted business," I feel like they're in it for the wrong reasons anyway.
Right, and I'm not.
I do this, and they want my position, and they want to be where I am. Like, don't even think about it like that. If you're out there and you're listening to us, and like I said, you're trying to get to a certain level within the studio set stage realm, like, just do you. Like Mark was saying, you just need to do the follow up.
Yeah,
the follow up is normally the test.
Right.
It's the test.
Right. You got to follow through
because everybody not going. Like I said, that's the biggest thing. We are creatures of habit, and a lot of times, like, we might eat some steak on our plate, right? The steak and everything is gone. Dishes is dirty or whatever. The follow through is take the dish to the kitchen, put it in the sink.
Yeah.
How many of us are actually doing that?
And like I said, I mean, that's part of it. Can it be cumbersome? Can it be tedious? Yes, it can.
Yeah,
but
it's a habit. You got to teach yourself.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you have to implement over and over again.
Exactly.
You got to be committed, and you got to be consistent. Even the case and I hate to say it, but in this world, it is, but that's the way you ascend.
Yeah, but don't worry about that. Like we were saying, like, don't even think about that. Don't even let that phase your mind. But I do, in addition to say your follow through and your follow up. I want people to think about their energy. You know what I'm saying? This
definitely
goes along with your follow through and your follow up. When you are trying to go after something, you don't walk in there with your pants hanging down and your hair not combed,
Right.
no energy, no intent behind it. You have to have intention and you have to have the energy. So you have to find something that gives you the energy, that gives you the oomph to go after it the way it needs to be. It may be, like I said, I think earlier this week, it may be you jumping around. It may be you singing before you actually encounter that person who can hopefully change your life. But find what it is that gives you the energy, that makes you jump up out the bed and actually tackle your goals in life,
Yes, indeed.
Now, don't forget, we are on social media, Studio Set Stage everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Once you're on YouTube, don't forget, right, Mark? Just follow us, subscribe.
Follow us, subscribe. Every week, it's going to be a new edition, new episode, and so we appreciate it. We thank you for everybody showing their love and support, and trust me, there's a lot more to come.
A lot more to come. Like I said, we are still relatively new, and like I said, we have a lot of initiatives that we are going to be rolling out, especially bringing to you some experts when it comes to Studio Set Stage. So just continue to rock with us. I'm Cynthia Mallard.
And I'm Mark Dean.
Next time.
This has been a Studio Set Stage podcast production, copyright 2018, all rights reserved.